Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have people from the UK. So everybody, welcome to the CutSec ICS Friday Infosec chat. It's February 25th, 2022. I'm currently joined by Dylan and Brandon and everybody else that's out there on LinkedIn and YouTube. I appreciate you joining the conversation, coming in to talk to us about your week and what's going on. So if you are joining us on LinkedIn, if you and also on YouTube, please post any comments. Say hi. Let us know where you're from. If you want to talk about something this week, go ahead and let us know. As we usually do. I was sharing it, but now I need to reshare it. Usually start with an agenda. So yes, so here's our agenda. So this week, Cutaway Security, we've been working on a few things. We talked about last week how we were doing an architecture review and threat modeling for an OSI soft Pi installation at a utility. So we finished that and actually wrote up our report and set up our pen test outline for what we're going to do when we go on site in a couple of weeks. And then I had to do some time on a previous pen test that I did for the same organization, the capacitor substation, kind of put some finishing touches on a pen test report out there. So reporting has been my week, both last week and the start of this week. What I was supposed to be working on this week, and I'm pretty excited about getting back into it, and it's kind of been difficult to kind of transition from one to the other, is working on the SANS ICS 613 penetration testing. So it's one of the things I've been working on with the SANS team, with Tom Liston and a couple other people, kind of coming up with a pen test course. So this is in the works. Hopefully we can get this out. I don't know if it's this year or next year. There's obviously a lot of work to do for labs and stuff like that. So that's what we've been doing. We're joined by Dylan and Brandon this week. And, Dylan, this is the first time that I've seen you on this. We've talked a lot in the Cutaway Security Discord and channel, kind of sharing our thoughts on different topics and our days and stuff like that. So, Dylan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Dylan Lee. I'm a senior technical account manager at Dragos. And kind of my role at Dragos is to make sure the Dragos customers that are using our product offerings are getting the most value out of it and using our product to their fullest capabilities. So making sure that their environments are accurate, their assets are coming in, using the Dragos platform. So I get to work a lot with customers and making sure they're successful, and it's been great to see all these environments and work in them.
Excellent. Awesome. Brandon, you and I recorded something the other day, and I'm still working on to get that out, but you haven't joined. Is this first time you joined the stream? I can't remember.
It's the first time I joined the stream. I've watched on YouTube a couple times.
Well,
the first couple I was on, and then I haven't been on since because my boss seems to have meetings with me sometimes too. I don't understand that all the time.
That guy. We'll have to get him on here at some point too. So why don't you introduce yourself, Brandon? Let people know what your background is.
Working team. I work for a small consultancy. I was joking the other day with him that it's a boutique consultancy because that sounds like more money. But called Sci-Fi Defense, and with them, for the most part, I work directly with clients to manage on a consultant type role, managing some network security monitoring tools that they have. And then, but Sci-Fi ourselves, we're kind of like Cutaway, a small security firm. I know we've talked to you about this before, but we do all kinds of security consulting type work. So
yeah, just the gamut. We're all in this together. We kind of fill the roles that we need to fill for any organization. So I appreciate y'all have being on here, and providing the expertise. I actually want to say thank you, live. both of you are regular contributors to the Cutaway Security Discord, answering questions, asking, and pushing people, contributing to the careers channel when positions open up. You see it at different organizations. So I wanted to say thank you both to the whole Discord, that's out there, working on things, but also both of you. I've seen you very active in there, so I appreciate your contributions there. So kind of to our agenda, and we need to touch on this just briefly. I don't want to touch on it too much outside of the fact that, yes, there is a war going on in Ukraine now. It's unfortunate. We don't have any influence over that. There is the component that's associated with that is that this started with an ICS incident, almost 5 years ago. So is it 5 years, 6 years ago? Yeah. So something like that. So there's a lot of people in the information security industry that have friends over there, that know people and have stayed with families and worked with them. So, think about those people. This is Infosec, and so we realize that your friends might be a little bit stressed out. They might be concerned about people over there. And that's why, coming from a military background, I'm also concerned about, not only their military. I'm starting to see more and more stories about the actual fighting that's going on. But there's, in the United States military, NATO military over there, and they're going to be in harm's way too. So I just want to make sure that everybody takes a moment. It's not just on the news; it's actually happening and so forth. Dylan, Brandon, probably don't have too much to say, but if you have something, go ahead.
My hearts are with the people over there. It's obviously a worldwide stage, not just a ICS or security thing, but yeah, it does definitely affect us as well. You brought up Ukraine 5 years ago or whatever. When the first Ukraine power outage happened, I worked for a company called Internships, which was a nonprofit focused on cybersecurity for the electric sector. And they had the first power outage in, I think, 2015. And then 2016, I was going on vacation for 2.5 weeks or so over Christmas. And I wrote a weekly newsletter, and I put in that newsletter, this will be the last newsletter for about 3 weeks while I'm on vacation, unless something like the Ukraine cyber attack from last year happens. And of course, it happened again, and I was like, "Oh man, that you can't predict some." But I learned not to joke about things like that after that, because it was definitely again, that time was over Christmas, but again, things that are happening in Europe that affect everybody over here in the U.S. as well, where I'm based.
Yeah, and it does affect ICS within the United States. I put the 2 bullet points up there, that people need to, and this came from Ed Barrowset in the Discord as well, and he's absolutely right. Just because we are, on the other side of the world from this, we are applying pressure, from a United States standpoint. There's a lot of political pressure going on. And, unfortunately, the businesses, our utilities and stuff like that could pay the price. So monitoring yourself, putting people on your logs, double checking the logs, making sure that your people, your individuals are safe, and your processes are safe is pretty important. So, yeah, so it's, yeah. So, and that's probably enough to say about that. We're going to be hearing a lot about that as we're going through. Dylan, I knew you wanted to talk about something. Was there a topic that you wanted to talk about? You had mentioned something before we jumped on.
Well, I guess kind of on that Ukraine topic, there is a SANS webcast going on right now for if you're interested in it. So if you're interested specifically in the escalation, there's a few speakers going on. Rob Lee from Dragos, Jake Williams, I think Tim Conway and Kevin are on that one also today. Okay. So there's a whole slew of people talking about it over there, and it's probably a better case for it. I guess one of the kind of discussions today, not to pivot away from that, but to move on to another topic, is, breaking into this industry and getting more people involved. And now more than ever, making sure these environments are protected. We need more members of the community. We need more people in these companies. We need, Dragos is hiring. All these companies are hiring. Finding more people in this industry is definitely an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, and that's something that we do talk a lot about in the Discord channel. In a lot of people are come to because I don't just do Cutaway Security Discord. I do several other Discords and Slack channels, and that's one of the big questions. It's always like, how do I get into this? How do I learn about this? Whether it's somebody that wants to move from the control environment over to information security, or information security trying to get into the OT. And it's all of these locations, the different Discord channels, the different Slack channels, they have individuals that are knowledgeable in these areas. And so just finding those individuals and asking them about their resources. There's a lot of different resources. Dylan, you mentioned Rob's got his excellent list of things to educate yourself around that. But really it all boils down to, in my mind, seeking knowledge, finding out where that information is, and actually going out and reading it and doing some of the things like doing labs and stuff like that. And then networking with people like yourself and like Brandon, like EnergySec. Wasn't that one of their drives to education, Brandon?
Yeah, EnergySec did most of their money. It was a nonprofit, so they got members who donated to the nonprofit. But then they also did training, mostly focused on SIP training, or I should say do training, mostly focused on NERC SIP. That's kind of the background of the people who founded EnergySec. And so that training was one of the primary, at least when I was there, one of the primary ways they got their funding was from doing that. This was all before COVID. They did things like Security Education Week, which was more of a ICS Security 101 type thing, where they would get people to come in kind of early to mid-career and be able and bring together people from Schweitzer Engineering and people from OSI Soft, and all that kind of stuff to do trainings on all kinds of kind of ICS Security 101 type stuff. So a really good organization if anybody is looking, especially if you're in the electric sector, is looking. I haven't been there. I haven't worked for them for about 4 years now.
Right.
But can still really good people there. So can't.
Yeah, and there's the opportunities that are out there, and I'm constantly pointing people to the fact that they don't need to get a job in ICS Infosec. They can just get a job in the OT industry and start learning about that administration and the implementation of PLCs. Becoming a PLC programmer. Might it be a step back for some people? Absolutely, but there's no better technique than actually learning how to run a process, and the implementation of the process, the problems that coming into it, the requirements for actually running the process. What are the safety considerations? The actual implementation is the challenge there. There was a question about the Cutaway Security Discord. I'll share a link out on LinkedIn. I'll reach out to you personally and share that out to you guys a little bit later.
And it's definitely interesting too, like getting people involved, because like your normal college programs. Like my wife is going for information security, right? So they are talking the enterprise side of the house. And when you go and look at industrial automation, most programs, at least when I even looked, didn't even have IT involved. I found one program in the state of Wisconsin when I went at Northwoods Technical that had 1 full year of IT and then 1 full year of processing, industrial automation, and controls. And they were the only school, and as far as I know, still the only school in the state of Wisconsin that even has a mixed program to begin with.
Well, that's starting to change, and I don't have specifics because I know the University of Illinois is putting something out there. I believe that there is another university that's partnering with Sands, ICS Village, and Siemens to come up with an internship program, which I really highly support. You know, the internship programs or not internship, apprenticeship.
Apprenticeships.
Apprenticeships, yeah, not interns, apprenticeships. The apprenticeship program, because this is kind of like a trade skill. This is a trade, and while the college degree really helps, having that direct experience for implementation is extremely important as well. So I like the apprenticeship aspect of it.
Yeah. So my background before I got into information security, I was a teacher for middle school and high school teacher, and so education is something I obviously care a lot about. And there's a few now. So Georgia Tech has a cyber physical systems degree, master's degree focused on cybersecurity of cyber physical systems. Idaho State in Pocatello, Idaho, has one that's partnered with Idaho National Lab. I don't know as much about that one. I can't remember the name of the person at Idaho State who's starting it. It's a name that I'm sure all three of us would recognize if I could think of it. One of the bigger names. I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah.
And then, but the other thing that made me think about is I have a 8th grader who's going to be a freshman, and he is going to a brand new high school next year, which is starting a cybersecurity program. And so he's going in as a freshman next year. And I think, like Dylan said, I'm 99% sure, without really seeing much other than the promo information about it, it's IT enterprise tool focused type stuff with some CTF hacking type stuff as well. I could almost guarantee there's no ICS stuff with it, just because most programs, unless they start with that focus, they a lot of times they don't even know that it's a blind spot in their program. So,
well, it can be kind of right. It can be kind of hard because when you think about all of the different components that go into it, there's it's expensive. It's the issues around not only the hardware, so you have to buy the hardware, which are the different components, the program logic controllers, and the sensors and actuators. Then you have to figure out something to set up to make something realistic. A lot of people go with the tanks and the level sensors and so forth. But then on top of that, the software. A lot of people don't realize how much the software actually costs to run some of those things. There are free solutions that are out there, but it can be not so. Now you need hardware, you need software, you need knowledge about a process, and so it can be kind of difficult to come up with something for a lab environment. So that's a part of the challenge, is that a lot of the money that usually goes into paying for personnel and the development of the course also goes into the purchase of equipment and software. So that can be a challenge for educational teams as well. Dylan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, and I don't want to obviously we're not here to bash computer science degrees or information security degrees that are doing the enterprise side. We need those people just as much too, right? The banks, the financial institutions. But I think if you go in those routes, because that's what you have access to, go for it. But then when you get out, go work for a utility, go work for that local cheese plant, go work for a paper mill, right? Go work at some of these industries, and just as part of your day job, we'll be interacting potentially with these industrial control systems. And also at the same time, you're gaining experience, you're getting a paycheck, so it may not be the best direct route to get ICS the day you graduate, but it's still a great foundation.
And I think you're right. I think a lot of a lot of people have expectations of how much they should be making out of this. You know, they hear about the information security, you know, and it's kind of a bubble right now. There is a you know, a lot of people that are making some pretty decent money doing pen testing and doing threat analysis and so forth. But at the same time, is it you know, do you want to move, you know, to go to the locations where those are at? Some of them are remote, but a lot of their teams have expectations, some really high expectations around education and experience. And, you know, and that can be a limiting factor. So when people ask me about like, okay, where do I get this experience, Dylan, I point them to that. Hey, you know, you got to suck it up sometimes and you know, kind of pay your dues at these other organizations.
So Russell just pointed out Studio 5000. Yes, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it can. And to Russell's point, you know, and the reason why he pointed that out is because, you know, we can go with these cheaper models, you know, for our lab environments. We can go with the Click PLCs. We can, you know, get the free version of what is it? What's the Power SCADA? Isn't that the HMI? You know,
yeah, there's Power SCADA, Open SCADA, Ignition Maker. There's free versions out there, but
right.
like it's not real as much. It's like, okay, it's real. We see it all the time, but like as we all know, we're seeing Plant Packs DCS, Siemens WinCC, Emerson Ovation. We're not testing with the stuff we're going to see in the environments. So great for foundational. Going to that next step is very costly.
Absolutely. You know, and while the concepts are there, and people need to remember that yes, you're learning concepts. It's just like anything else we do. The CTFs are teaching concepts, and so certainly we can find those cheaper solutions. But at the same time, when you go look for a job in those areas and they ask you what you're familiar with, you know, if you're not familiar with, you know, Studio 5000, like, okay, you know, well, you're going to come in at a lower level, right? And so it doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever. It's just sometimes you're going to have to take that hit, you know, and realize that if you're going into a new organization that requires new skill sets, yeah, it's you're going to have to pay your dues. So,
yeah.
One of the so I did have a couple other links out there, that was on the agenda, you know, and it kind of goes to what we're talking about, Dylan. So as a part of developing the SANS class, you know, I was looking for some educational things, both to help me understand some of the concepts that Jason Larson has taught me, you know, in my interactions with him, and understanding the things that actually go wrong with processes. And I've been really impressed with a YouTube series called Practical Engineering. And, you know, I was looking for things like water hammers, you know, trying to understand, you know, what water hammers, you know, what kind of damage it does, you know, what is the issue around that. And he gives some excellent backyard engineering solutions associated with, you know, water flow and opening and closing valves, showing the effect of the hammer down the pipes, showing the vacuum that actually occurs. You know, he's using a clear piping to do all of that, and sensors and everything. So I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, I'd like to point people to the practical engineering on YouTube. It was a pretty good, several good videos to watch.
I still feel like YouTube is one of those underrated resources, like in the community. Like people look to SANS; they have tons of great resources. You know, there's a link for something right there.
It's practical engineering.
Yep. So
it didn't like give out a thumbnail or anything like that. So
yeah,
but
yeah, no, and like Rob posts resources to YouTube all the time. There's great resources out there. Especially if you're going to go interview somewhere, go watch some videos on how does a paper plant run. You know, they're running those rolls at 10,000 RPM. You know, I worked in a foundry. My family's from the foundry, so I sat down and how does this stuff actually operate? So, you know, you're not walking in blind.
Yeah, now you're making me want to go watch some of the paper mill stuff. I try to think of different industries, and paper it keeps popping up. I keep thinking about it, but I haven't used that as an actual reference. It's just yet. So I have to go check some of that out, Dylan.
Yeah, I just pick industries because, for 2 years I did on-call basis, and paper's huge here in Wisconsin. Cheese plants are interesting. One of the really fun ones I went to was they make the propane canisters for Coleman and Burns-O-Matic, and they make like 80% of them for the U.S. in one plant. And you go in there, so everything's those blue, intrinsically safe PLCs, and they have fans everywhere. And you're like, oh, it's because it gets hot, right? Like it's a metal process. They're like, no, the propane floats and people will suffocate. So they use fans to blow the facility out as part of the process. It's it's like you never learn about some of this stuff until you find a video or you go and actually experience the plants.
And that's a critical part of the process. Would that be considered safety? I know it's part of the safety. I'd assume it would, but
yeah. So intrinsically safe. I don't necessarily know if that's part of like a safety system. It's usually higher rated components that don't cause spark.
Mm-hmm.
But they also do have intrinsically safe components that have dual processing. So everywhere in that plant had those blue Beckhoff SIL2 PLCs, and they're not cheap either. But they literally could have the whole controller die, and all the remote racks on the floor have that secondary processor to keep everything safe.
So, right. Yeah, but that's a little part of the process that a lot of people don't take into consideration, because they've got the actual production stuff, but if those fans stop, I mean, and operators are going to notice. And so those, as you mentioned, the PLCs for those fans, those probably have management servers as well. And a lot of people might not, they're so concerned about the security of the actual process that they might not have been taken into consideration the fans, the air conditioning, and other things. Brandon, you were going to say something?
I was going to say the intrinsically safe things. I can remember I was with a client a few years ago, and we started talking about it and started looking at the websites. And there's like websites who all they do is sell intrinsically safe stuff, and like cell phone cases and clothing and like pins and calculators and everything. It was the craziest thing to like just look. We spent like 45 minutes just looking at this website one day at the different things that you could spend like $400 for an intrinsically safe calculator or something like that. It was just kind of crazy.
So you guys need to put a link to some of that stuff, because I was just talking about some safety, when as a part of the SANS presentation, and I went over with PPEs and stuff like that. But I need to add some of the intrinsically safe stuff, especially if that's something that's a consideration for these environments.
Yeah, I remember my biggest thing is like I had to get an intrinsically safe flashlight, which was $100. And then the other thing that really was a kicker was, at the time I was a calibration tech, so I had to go get a different meter, which set me back almost $2,000 just so that it was intrinsically safe.
Do you still have that?
I do. It literally looks just like a normal Fluke, but it's in a red shell.
Wow, that's interesting. Cool. Because when I went to the distillery, there were certain locations, because obviously alcohol is flammable, and couldn't we take pictures of different situations as we're doing assessments, and I had to go and ask permission everywhere I went, just because we didn't know which area was it was unsafe to use those, since this wasn't intrinsically safe. So very interesting and dynamic. Awesome. Well, we're kind of coming up on the end. So first of all, I want to thank everybody who joined us, for another Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. And thank you for asking questions in LinkedIn and YouTube. Russell, thank you for your participation there. We did see a couple of your comments. And thank you everybody that's joined the Cutaway Security Discord. I'll put the link back out on YouTube, or excuse me, on LinkedIn. Again, for anybody that wants to join, reach out to me personally. Dylan and Brandon, thank you both for joining us this week. Any final thoughts, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the community you've started building, Don. Everyone, please be safe out there. Check your firewall logs and, take some time to relax. A tired defender is not a good defender. So,
absolutely, and that's a great point. We do have to. We do need to be managing our people and their fatigue, and I think that's really important. Thanks for bringing that up, Dylan. Brandon, any final thoughts for you?
No, just Dylan kind of stole it with his first one. I was going to tell you thank you for doing this, for all your efforts to build the community, your Discord channel, your Sam's videos, you do all that kind of stuff. I know it's quite time consuming, but I think it does make a difference. And thank you very much.
Yeah, and we're all working together on that. It's not just me. It's just I'm trying to kind of be a focal point around that, and it wouldn't be like it is without all of y'all. So thanks everybody for joining. Once again, Dylan, Brandon, good to see you live and in person. We'll see you back in the Discord. Everybody that was on the LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, I guess it's on Twitter as well. Thanks for joining us, and we will see all of you next week. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Thank you.